Lockdown is over. Well, almost. Anyway, there are friends to meet, drinks to drink, fun to be had, and more importantly, money to spend. Even though we're all buzzing to get back to normal life, we can't avoid the fact that we're going to be spending more money as we come out of lockdown. So we planned on making a video to share some of the tips that we use, or at least plan to use, to make sure that we continue saving money when things open back up again. This video was inspired by David over at Pretty Penny Club, so you should go check out his video or just his channel in general because it's all top quality stuff. For me, it's actually a weird one because I actually started investing during the lockdown, so I've never known what it's been like to start saving outside of a lockdown whilst also investing. So just bear in mind that it is a learning process for me too. But either way, I just wanted to share some tips in a fairly relaxed format that I'm sure you can benefit from. I'm not necessarily going to give a long list of tips that you need to follow. Instead, I'm going to discuss some key areas and just talk a bit about the mentality of saving. And hopefully that way, it'll be a bit more relatable. With that out of the way, let's get into it. All that just to lose the final. Shout out to the boys though, he smashed it. So why did I just show a video of me being very drunk in a pub shouting at some men playing football? Well, it's just to show that I get it. Things are opening up again, life's getting back to normal, and we're all spending money. Now, the first point that I do want to talk about, which is especially relevant coming out of lockdown when it comes to saving money, is to control your excitement, which I clearly didn't do in the pub. Way back before lockdown started, I know, that's a long time ago, but just bear with me, I'm sure you can remember it. We had a ton of things to spend our money on. Restaurants, holidays, theme parks, you name it. It all comes under the broad industry of hospitality. You don't need me to tell you that things have been closed down for over a year now. And that's not even covering most sporting or entertainment services. Also, we've not even been able to see our mates for a while, never mind do something with them. Inherently, when we come out of lockdown, we're all going to go wild. And rightly so. But we may just need to be careful. How we live our lives and how we spend our money has generally changed. People who used to love going out to the pub all the time may have fallen in love with beer subscriptions, or people who used to eat out at restaurants all the time may have fallen in love with cooking. Basically, we've changed what we spend our money on. While some people have spent much less money in lockdown, other people have redirected that money into new activities. This is a key point that you need to consider as things go back to normal. If you want to start spending your money on things that you used to do before lockdown, but you're still now spending money on these new activities, then you're going to have to make a bit of compromise. We're going to have to find a balance so that we don't overwhelm ourselves with all sorts of crazy expenses. Now look, it's not going to be easy. People are going to want to see each other, we're going to want to go out for food or drink, but we need to control our excitement. We need to make sure that we don't go on a spending spree, spending more than what our income actually allows. Now, I get that this is a bit vague, but the thing is, it is going to vary a lot from person to person. Either way, I've still got a few more direct tips that people can follow to help us as we make this transition. The first one is to limit the number of subscriptions that you purchase. Now, I get it. Things are opening up again. Whether it's gyms, your local sports club, your local golf course, five-a-side football, whatever. But either way, all of these are subscription purchases. If you're going to want to start paying for these on top of your other subscriptions, such as Netflix or maybe that new beer subscription that you got over lockdown, then you're going to be spending half of your money before you even see it come into your account. Now, I'm not saying that you can't go out and do exercise, but just remember that subscriptions come out of your account every single month. Sometimes it's easy to throw away money like this because as it's a monthly expense, you almost just don't see it. But over time, these expenses really do add up and you just need to be conscious of that. Secondly, is to try to avoid using credit, unless, of course, you're going to use it responsibly. If you get to the point where you have to start paying for things with credit, then that means that you probably shouldn't be buying it in the first place. With credit, you're essentially spending next year's or next month's income, which eventually you are going to feel the effects of. Now, using credit isn't always a bad thing, as you actually have to use credit to improve your credit score so that you can get the best rates on other credit applications. But similarly, if you misuse credit, then you're going to wreck your credit score. If you start to miss payments, then it can start to spiral out of control, and before you know it, you could be in serious financial trouble. So you have to be careful of that. So just remember, if you can't afford it now, then there's probably a reason for that. And if you really want to buy it, then you should save up for it with your own money, not borrowed money. Now, the next one that I want to cover, which is a bit cliche and a bit of an obvious one, but I feel like it's so underrated, and it is to get hobbies that are free. Whilst most of the good things in life are hidden behind some sort of paywall, there are still plenty of things that you can do for free, and you might even enjoy them more than the other things that you actually pay for. Walking is such a good example of this. Thousands of people over lockdown have started to appreciate the great outdoors, and rightly so. Spending any time outdoors on a walk is not only free, but it's also really good for your mental well-being, you get a bit of exercise, and it's also an excuse to socialise. Now, I'm lucky enough to be in Sheffield, with the Peak District right on my doorstep. But most people will live within at least 30 minutes of some sort of great outdoor space, so make the most of it. A few other examples for inspiration could be learning music, exercise, reading, learning languages, or even astronomy. Now, I get it, not everything at first is going to stand out for you, but I guarantee that there will be something out there that you can do for free that you will love. You just won't know until you try it. Speaking of doing things that you love, that brings us right onto the next topic related to frugal living that not many people really talk about. Most people think that frugal living is all about cutting back, taking everything out of your life, living some sort of suppressed lifestyle, but it really doesn't have to be like that. One key concept that you should learn to master is to channel your energy and income into things that make you happy. Not your mates happy, not your partner happy, not your family happy, things that make you happy. For some reason, it's some sort of like alien concept that people just never talk about. But the most efficient way for you to get the most reward from your hard-earned money is to spend money on things that really make you happy. Of course, this is going to vary a lot from person to person, but that's the whole point. You have to find the thing that you love. If you start channeling your income towards that thing that you love, then you're going to get the most enjoyment from it. Take going out for coffee, for example. The most classic frugal living tip is to not go out and drink coffee because, you can make it at home for 20p.
The 20-cent iced coffee.
Now look, I get it. Going out and buying coffee is kinda expensive, and most people think it's unnecessary. I mean, I even used to think that myself before I was aware of this concept. But just hear me out. Take my girlfriend, for example. And I'm sure she won't mind me saying this, but one of her most favourite activities is to go out with her friends and buy coffee and go for a drink. Now, most people would be quick to say that she's awful with money, going out for a coffee multiple times a week. What a nightmare. But no, this is the key. Going out and drinking coffee with her friends is a thing that she loves, and she gets a lot of enjoyment from it. Not only does she get to enjoy a fine, hot beverage, she also gets to catch up on the local goss. I'm only kidding. But she gets so much fulfillment from this that she doesn't need to waste her money on other things. The point is that going out and drinking coffee with your friends may not be an activity that you love, and so it would be a waste of money. But to somebody who really does enjoy it and they get a lot of fulfillment from it, then that's what they should channel their income towards, because why the hell not? Take me, for example. I've recently fallen in love with playing golf. Now, unfortunately, golf is a fairly expensive sport, but at the same time, I'm getting so much enjoyment from it that I don't waste my money on other things that don't make me happy. By making sure that we spend money on the things that we love, we can get the most enjoyment from it. We don't have to just cut back on everything as frugal livers, we just have to spend smart. To try and help you with this concept, these are some of the key things that I like to think about when it comes to smart spending. First and foremost, probably being the most important thing that you can do, is to not let other people dictate your spending. This almost sounds trivial, but I literally see it happening all the time, and I'm sure you do too. People get upset because they've been roped into some sort of holiday or going out for food or going out for a drink that they don't even want to go to with some friend or family member. Now look, I get it, you can't always say no, but at the end of the day, if you don't want to spend money on something, then don't spend money on something. It's your choice. If you start spending your money on things that don't make you happy, you're going to lose the will to live and you're going to get annoyed, trust me. So why do we do it? Well, social pressure. Look, I get it. You can't always say no, and sometimes you get roped into something, you have to pay for it. Yeah. It's not nice. It's not good. But the power is normally in your hands, You have to make the choice sometimes and say no. And if you've got it in your head that if you say no to something, your friends are going to call you tight, then really, are they your friends? I mean, geez, this is suddenly turning into life lessons with Lewis, not iQinvesting, but we're back. If you're not getting enjoyment out of what you're spending your money on, then it's a waste. End of. A classic example of this for me is going out and eating food. Now, I have a lot of friends and family who come and visit Sheffield sometimes, and every time we somehow feel obliged that we have to go out for a meal. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a good meal out. But, you know, when it gets to a point where you've eaten out every weekend and you can see it starting to hurt your bank balance, it sucks. So, instead, whenever I can, I suggest that we just cook food. Not only is it more enjoyable, sometimes it's even nicer. Now, this is only a little personal example for me, but, you know, for you, it's important to analyse your own spending habits and figure out where you can make those changes that are really going to make a difference. Not all of us are going to be perfect at spending, but I'm sure we can all certainly improve. The next thing I want to cover is budgeting. Now, if you can do it, great. There's nothing like having a good old spreadsheet, tracking all your expenses, and, you know, just being on top of everything. There's also plenty of apps out there now where you can track your spending with ease. So, you know, do it if you can. So, why did I just say if you can? Well, because I can't. Hands up, I am crap at budgeting. It's just something I don't know what it is. Look, I just can't do it. I keep it up for a week or so and then it just never happens. It's just not for me. And unfortunately, I am not alone. I know that many people think the same way about it, so I'll share what I do instead. What I do, which, you know, as I say it kind of sounds like budgeting, just in some sort of informal way. I just, first of all, track my income every month. Then I think about my recurring outgoings. That is, the things that come out every month. You know, like your rent, bills, subscriptions, etc. I also try to set a savings target each month. So, you know, say a few £100, and then if I can save that in a month, I'm happy. So what I do, in my head, I take my total income, subtract it from the outgoings that are coming out every month, and then also subtract that savings target. Then I'm left over with a pot of money, which is my spending money each month. The more I'm talking about this literally just sounds like a budget, it's just in my head, but you know, bear with me. With that monthly spending money that I have, I tend to break that down into sort of a weekly amount so that it's a bit easier to track. I don't necessarily allocate my money to, you know, different parts of my life, such as food, entertainment, etc. I just keep that weekly budget. Some weeks I don't get up to much, and you know, in a sense, it's good. I'm chilling. I'm under my weekly budget. Happy days. So then next week, when I do have my mates over and we go out for a drink, I'll treat myself to, you know, the more expensive beer, because, you know, I had a cheap week last week. I can counterbalance it. I can splash out a bit more. You know, like a cheeky Peroni. Like, ooh. For me, it works really well. I'm not necessarily tracking every penny and figuring out what I'm spending my money on. Instead, I just have a weekly budget, and then, you know, if I have a cheap week, I know I can have an expensive week. But then, similarly, if I had an expensive week, then next week, I'll try to cut back and, you know, save a bit more. If you can budget and budget well, then do it. Like, well done, fair play to you. But, you know, if you're like me and budgeting sort of, you know, just drives you insane, then hopefully that sort of tip or weird budgeting that I do can help you out. Finally, I've got the last pair of tips which sort of come hand in hand, and they're arguably some of the most important on this list. The first of them is a concept that you've probably heard before, and it is to pay yourself first. You cannot underestimate how much of a difference this makes towards reaching your saving and investing goals. It's such a simple concept. Instead of waiting around to the end of the month, you know, seeing what money you've saved up and scraping together what you have left, you actually just save your money at the beginning of the month. So, on your payday, treat yourself. Send yourself £200 to your savings account or your stocks and shares ISA. Buy yourself some investments. Save. Then, you are literally limiting the amount you can spend in the month, because you've already done the saving, so then whatever you have left, that's your spending money. It is literally the best way to get in control of your saving and investing. Then, in the future, you'll be able to spend more money on more stuff that you love. But I do get it, paying out a chunk at the beginning of each month is not necessarily going to be easy. You know, sometimes we have bills to pay, you don't know how much you're going to spend in the month, like, it happens, fair enough. But this leads us right onto our next point, which is to set realistic investing expectations. Stop being so hard on yourself. As I said before, frugal living is not all about stripping back everything, you know, spending as little money as possible. It's really about finding a balance. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to save a lot, because, you know, you should. But at the same time, if you set yourself realistic expectations, it's going to make the whole process so much more easier. After a few months of getting into the frugal mindset, you'll start to figure out what's achievable and what's not. And then from that, you should set yourself a savings goal. When you find a saving amount that works for you, keep on doing that. Try it for a few months. If you undersave for a certain month, don't beat yourself up. It's not always going to happen. But similarly, if you oversave, then great, well done. You'll start to learn that it makes the whole process so much more enjoyable. Instead of getting frustrated at yourself for not saving enough, you'll start to feel a sense of achievement. Whenever your circumstances change, you can just adjust your targets appropriately. And remember, you can do that easily by changing the amount that you pay yourself first at the beginning of a month. You see, it all comes full circle. Now, I get it. Some people may think that this is a weak savings mindset, and if you're not saving every single penny that you can, then you're doing it wrong. And well, yeah, to be fair, maybe they're right. But for me, frugal living is all about balance. You don't have to sacrifice every bit of your spending or happiness to be a successful investor. By spending smart, or by spending money on the things that you really love, you'll soon start to see that saving money becomes easy without decreasing your happiness. Then, with your financial goals in mind, set yourself some realistic investing expectations, start to pay yourself first, and you'll be well on your way to becoming a successful saver and investor. On that note, we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.